welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the opening. Wow, I can hear myself.
I can hear me now, too.
Thank you so much for coming and supporting the opening day. This has been just a gift in the works on so many levels. I want to welcome you all to the Mind Body Abundance TV platform. My name is Charlene Osterling. I am the creative mind behind A Stupid Good World, which is a mission to increase the 8% of humans who actually fulfill a purpose and leave a legacy while they're here. So I offer fun games, shift programs, tips, tools, toys, all kinds of fun things to bring you back to the fearless nature of childhood again and get paid to play. Thank you, Herden, for coming to be the co-host today.
Hello. Thank you all for being here today and taking the time out in the middle of this beautiful day. It's actually pretty nice out today, so thank you for taking that time and being here. So my name is Betsy Herden. I am the owner and operator of Illuminate Holistic Wellness Center. And at Illuminate, we like to combine mind, body, spirit, right? We hear that all the time, and it sounds really cliche. But we have personal training and yoga classes to shamanic healings, and I'm also an intuitive guide, so I do psychic and mediumship readings, shamanic clearings. We do Reiki. We have yoni steams, ear candling, massage, foot detox. So it's one of those where you get everything. And one of the best parts is we provide classes, and these classes give you the information both for mind and body and spirit. So that's going to, which brings us to our guest that we get to talk about, because he is someone that is going to be here for the next couple of weeks and then coming back in May to teach classes and have events at the studio.
Yeah, the thing I love about Illuminate is we're definitely co-creators. And when people come into the space that offers something that we don't, we embrace that and look at it as another level of healing. So there's no competition, truly. We're all doing the work. We're all bringing people through in a way that is a little bit different. So it's, if I'm personal training and a person has an emotional breakdown, I can send them in for a clearing or have some Reiki or kind of get to the bottom, if they're open to it, to the emotional end. So it's just a whole different level of treating people where they're at and offering every tool, if they're open to it, to taking themselves to that higher level.
Absolutely. And, you know, we have those easier spa services that bring some people in. And that's it. I like to call those the gateway drugs right there to get them in. And then it's like, ooh, I can see that you're holding this here in your body and da-da-da-da-da. And they're like, what? And then we just bring them over and get them into the woo-woo stuff. We all like little woo.
I love the foot detox thing, because it is so freaking gnarly when they're done with the foot detox that even they want to throw up.
Yeah.
They're definitely coming back.
Yeah. Same with the ear candling. Like, I always like to unroll it. Yeah. It's that gross, like, pimple popper person in me where I'm like, ooh, look at how gross you are. So those are fun things that we offer. I feel like fun things. Those are interesting things, I don't know, that we offer that really bring in those different kind of clientele, and then we feed them into so many other services and classes that we offer.
Awesome. Which brings us to Markus. So today we're going to talk with our guest about inner work. Changing your life and relationship by starting from the inside out. That's a huge one. That's a huge one for people. I personally do the inside out work. I've spent the majority of my life alone, got out of an abusive relationship at 25 and vowed to figure out who I was, what made me happy, and what's my purpose to serve. I'm still on that mission. And one of the biggest tools, I was talking with Cassandra and a couple other people today about, you know, we have the meditation, we have all the tools we offer, but integration is the biggest tool people miss. So you go to these healing sessions, you go to understand, to learn, to educate more about the inner self that exists, that we don't always acknowledge exists when we're underneath a different belief. And we gain knowledge about ourselves. Like every shamanic clearing I've done with you has been just profound, things I didn't want to know. But if I don't integrate and I don't take that lesson and know that I'm not that shadow I've been hiding under, do the shadow work, do the darkness, face all that stuff, the integration of everything is the biggest tool we're missing. So those tools and that personal work are just huge, and our guest is so all about that. Like,
absolutely. And what I love, so I'm really lucky because I get to call Markus my coach, my teacher, and my mentor. This man has completely changed my life. And I get emotional about it because when I say change my life, I mean change my life. And there's, gotta clench him. Hold on, just give me a second. Him and I met in a very unique way. So this is hard for people to believe, but if you're open enough, just follow me on this. So I was going through my shamanic training and I went into a meditation, and I was at the point where my teachers I already had couldn't take me any further. And in this meditation, I put my information out there wherever there is, right? And I said, please send me the coaches and mentors that I need that can help me in this next step in my life. And within, I would say, it was like a week or two, this man calls me out of nowhere. And he lived in LA at the time. And he goes, I think I'm meant to work with you. And, who is this? And then he told me what he... Yeah. You're a business person. People call you constantly wanting to sell you something. And I'm like, okay. But after he started talking about what he does, so Markus is an author, a holistic life and consciousness coach. He's a speaker. He holds different events and workshops. He's an artist. Those people that kind of have it all and you're just like, what, are you great at everything? Yeah, so he's kind of there. So I vetted him for a while and to really see, and he was able to see right through it. He could see right through that posturing I was doing, and he called me on it. And I go, you are the one. You are the one I'm supposed to work with. So with no further ado, we would like to bring in Markus Kasunich, my coach, my teacher, my mentor.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Markus Kasunich. Welcome to the show. I hope you're having a good time. Enjoy. This is exciting, and I'm really, really grateful to be here. So let's get this going.
welcome.
Thank you.
So Markus believes in using all the tools of expression and self-investigation. It is possible to achieve profound transformation, healing, and growth beyond our wildest dreams as we are constantly deepening into the experience of ourself.
Yeah, we already brought him in. So earlier we touched on working on relationships from the inside out. I know you are multi-talented and world of self-development, and you have over 25 years of experience. You have a very interesting story on how you entered into, because you're not old enough to have 30 years of experience, because it's closer to 30. So can you give me a brief, I think it's important to know how you got into this. I think it's so profound.
11 years old, living in Canada. Those A-frame swing sets you used to have in your backyard, and snow. dared to go up on this this big A-frame swing set and climb across the top of it. And at 11 years old, slipped, fell. The hood of my jacket caught on one of the bolts, and I hung to death. And watched myself go through the whole death process, came out on the other side, and watched and saw my body, lifeless body, hanging on that swing set. And, people always ask about the near-death experience. And it was profound. You're in this space. And the interesting thing about being on the other side, which a lot of people always ask about, is that what you have on the other side is all you have is your evolved consciousness. That's it. Your ego doesn't come with you. Your body doesn't come with you. What you think you know doesn't come with you. It's all about your personal evolution of consciousness. That's what's on the other side. That's what you bring with you, and that's what moves with you. So having in this space, and all of a sudden the other thing is that your ego, your personality structure is gone. So even though there's clarity, you're still at the exact same awareness that you were when you left. So whatever awareness I was at 11 years old at that moment in time was the exact same awareness I had on the other side. And then my father saw that body hanging, grabbed me quickly, and I was watching from this other space, and he put me in tepid water. And when he put me in tepid water, boom, I came back into my body. And my first thought was, oh, this is life. And my second thought was, oh my God, there's so much fear here. There's so much conditioning. There's so much pain. As my little 11-year-old mind was trying to conceive that. And that, I would always say to people that moment kind of broke the chip. It kind of severed the chip and gave me this incredibly fluid experience of reality. So all the doors of all these different things were open that I didn't have access to before, and that most of us don't always have access to, and it all happened at once. So that was my awakening. So the energetic world, the emotional world, the mental world, the psychic world, beings, energy, experiences, and consciousness. And in that moment, I was overwhelmed with this whole experience, and that basically was the catalyst that put me on the path to become a seeker. And so that was the kind of that moment. We often have these moments, right? That was the moment that snapped everything in, awakening. And then it took me another 15 to 20 years to integrate the experience of that, because an 11-year-old consciousness doesn't really know what to do with that.
Yeah, I was hearing that question, like, what was the gap to where did you start having these epiphanies and recalls back to that? Or how much of that did you actually carry with you from your 11-year-old self on?
It was
consciousness.
Yeah, it was awakened and present and never went away. And it still hasn't gone away. I can't turn it off, which is why I went on a path to learn tools, because I had to learn how to function with all of this open and all this awakened. So I went on a path to understand the energetic world, understand the spiritual world, understand the mind, and most importantly, to understand the human condition. I became fascinated by the human condition, because let's be clear, with all this consciousness we have available to us, how we're going to engage is still through the human facility, right? Through the human personality, through the human ego structure. So I became fascinated with that and went on a journey to explore. Now, there was no internet at that time. You couldn't Google it if you wanted to know something. So I traveled all over the world. I studied 11 years. I was 11 years in an ashram, in a kind of a monastic lifestyle. I was a personal assistant to enlightened beings and traveled all over the world. I spent a year in the forest by myself in a vision quest, because I come from a native background. So I started exploring these, and I don't necessarily recommend all this for everyone intensely. But don't do this at home. Don't operate.
I'm not going to go live in the woods by myself for a year. That's a hard pass.
And I don't recommend operating heavy machinery. But it was powerful, because I went on this personal adventure to explore, and that has been my life since that moment. And studying, then I went in deep. Since that had that experience, and I wanted to understand human conditioning. So I studied psychology and philosophy and went to school. And then I realized that's not enough. There's more. So that pointed me towards all of these incredible teachers all over the world. So that was kind of how it all happened. And now this is the journey. I didn't really want to be a teacher. Let's be clear. I wasn't really interested in that. I wasn't looking for that. I often call myself the reluctant teacher, because that wasn't my plan. But, when is it really ever our plan, right? So I kind of had to accept this, embrace it, and then work with that. And that became the kind of the grounding of all the tools that I learned in order to survive and function with the tools now are the tools that I use with my clients and people who are interested in knowing more, having about who they are at a deeper level.
I feel pretty lucky. Like my awakening, reawakening, I should say, happened at a later stage in my life. I could not imagine going through the changes that you go through, being a teenager or going into those teenage years. But I can also, I have a little bit more where it goes on and off. I couldn't even imagine seeing or feeling everything that you do and not being able to turn it off. It gets more difficult the more you're on the path. But man, at 11, I would feel like I was crazy.
I did. I thought my biggest fear from 11 to 20 was that somebody would find out what I was seeing reality as and put me away in an institution. So again, we didn't have access to a lot of material and understanding that we did back then, so you had to go find it. So that's what made me a seeker. And let's be clear, how you function with all that stuff, awakening is all these things awakening you are the tools. Those are the things that we use to ground us so that we can actually work with the consciousness that gets developed and gets presented to us. When you have those awakenings are have to be, like you said, integrated, right? And the tools, the inner tools and all the different levels of consciousness is what helps us integrate that and then be able to function and practically apply it. Because if it can't change your life, then what's the point?
Go ahead.
It's interesting that you bring up my most profound moment was at 11. And the reason I asked you the question previously was because I always heard what was coming through. And obviously mine wasn't as, you can't relate, but to have the profound, like I in my book, I talk about how God spoke to me my whole life, and then realizing through Reiki healers, through different energetic healers, and then coming here to this place and now integrating with the IRAM and the stuff, like the guides and those voices are relevant and they speak, and it's the courage to follow through. Like, that's why I asked you that question, because mine shut off and I had this epiphanic recall with a broken foot sitting at 9.5% body fat, like shooting up to 28% within a month, and having this profound thing, like literally my hand picked the pen up and it said tireless will. And it reminded me. So I love that you bring up that whole, how many 11-year-olds would honor that? I love that you're truthful with, I thought someone was going to check me in somewhere. And I was just living by myself in this, my own world. Like, so I love how once I met you and I went through the IRM teaching with her, and just such a profound separation down into really defining who you are. Like, I love that you took the note from all these people you met across the world in your life, and you put your own education out there that would help people get to another level, and that you both integrated a teaching to where she can coach and get people ready, and you come, it's a whole different environment when you come to Illuminate, and it's amazing to just be a part of watching the whole thing and wanting and be part of some of your events.
Well, and the IRAM is a map and a book. So when Markus went on this year-long excursion in the woods in the middle of nowhere, he had his journal and maybe some food once in a while, and maybe like a tent. And don't worry, I'm not going to take you up on that offer, like hard pass. And great stories. If you ever get a chance to talk with Markus, like these stories are wild. But he created this book from that, and I like to say, like, this information was downloaded to you. There was so much with it. And with the IRAM, it was one of those where when I met you, you introduced me to the book, and we all live in the conditioning, right? We all have conditioning. So when we have these openings, these awakenings, we're still taking it through the filter. And that's where I think things get really skewed. And so it's finding out what your filter was. And that's where the IRAM helped me so much, because I couldn't understand why I would always flip to this sense of cruelty. I viewed myself as the B word. I didn't view myself as a great mother, as a great wife, and I was really hard on myself with it. And I was cruel to people, and I didn't understand why. And I remember reading the first chapter, and I'm like, he wrote a book all about me. Obviously, that would not be a successful book, just about one person. And then it made me realize, oh my God, that means I'm not alone. And then in the book, you have what we call the medicine. So how to help you in these circumstances. And at that point, that gave me hope. Can you talk to us about the conscious relationships and what the importance of this IRAM is?
IRAM means inner relationship archetypal model. So basically, it's about that personality structure. Listen, I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things I've noticed, having traveled all over the world, done events in multiple countries, and having worked with many people, is that the piece that's missing in the spiritual world is often working with your personality structure, inner work. You were mentioning inner work and shadow work. Well, this book, which was, you're right, it came to me and I was writing for a year in my journal, and that's kind of how I developed it. And then I spent 7 to 10 years testing it with coaching clients. And then my wife and I did a retreat. And then finally I wrote the book, 333 pages of kind of delving into the inner work. And for me, it was like, it's not that they don't want to do the work. They just don't know how. They don't have a map. So I felt called, because there's all the other things being offered everywhere, to fill in what I consider the missing piece, which is creating a map for people to be able to use it as a workbook to go in and start the process of inner investigation. So it breaks down the inner world into the radiant inner child, the wounded inner child, the mature inner adult, and the shadow. And when people say to me, oh, I'm doing inner child work, I'm like, oh, great, that's fantastic. Tell me what you're doing. And most people can't articulate that. And so what I did was I articulated ways for people access and tools for people to go in to these various areas and to understand their inner personality, their inner structure, because that structure, that is the filter from how you are going to interpret every single spiritual experience you will ever have. Not to mention, that's the filter that you engage with every relationship. So as you work on your inner relationship within the consciousness of who you are, and you shift and change the inner relationship, you will ultimately organically change your outer relationships. You'll attract different people. You'll create different experiences. So a conscious relationship is one of somebody who's has done work on themselves on the inside and is now conscious, aware, and intentional about the way they're connecting with other people and understands their own conditioning. So for me, that was the missing piece. And I feel like for people, it really changes the way you engage with everyone else. Not to mention the fact who you create, right? Because if you're radiating a different invitation to the universe, you're going to create different kinds of people. So that, for me, was the piece, among other things. It's not that the other pieces aren't important, but I never saw and didn't see that piece in the spiritual world, and that was what I felt called to kind of add to the mix so that we had tools. And it was, to be honest, it was the tool I would have wanted when I was going through that process from 11 to 30. Right?
It's like that integration that you were talking about before. You are also the founder of the Relationship Academy.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about it. The
Relationship Academy, it was kind of a message. I received the message, actually, probably in the early 2000s, and I got this message that said, record everything. Record everything you do. Everywhere you go, just record it. I didn't know why I was recording it. I just recorded it all. And then at some point, I had this kind of, again, another kind of this inspiration to create this program online with all the tools so that all the content that I was doing for the last 15 to 20 years, all that recorded material, all those guided meditations, and we created this platform for people to go on. And for me, it's just about giving people resources. Because what I've found is that you can filter through Google and try to find stuff, but that's a process, and you have to be discerning about who you're choosing. So I compiled all the stuff that I was doing for the past 15 to 20 years into a membership site, so people can get on there, access tools, be able to watch videos, have courses, have lectures, and all these different opportunities. And then my wife does all the Kundalini yoga and meditation processes. So you'll go on there and you'll find everything about anything. You kind of type in the topic you want, and then all the tools will come up and you can kind of use it. So that was, and again, honestly, it was really created for my clients because I needed a place to put all this stuff. So then eventually people are like, well, can you please offer that to the public? And I'm like, okay, let's do that. So we kind of created this program, and now it's a powerful thing. And I wanted to do it so anyone could access it anywhere. So it's online, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I travel and I do events everywhere, but this is an opportunity so you can work at your own pace. You can study what you want to study. You can focus on what you're working on and what's important to you, and it gives you the tools to kind of navigate this journey. Because let's be clear, it's a pretty labyrinth. It's an interesting labyrinth, the journey of self-development and spirituality. And there's a lot of stuff out there, and so it's really hard to figure out what you actually need and what's actually going to be helpful. I mean, I had to do trial and error. It was for me trial and error. So this is a comprehensive place where all this exists.
Yeah, I love how the whole realm of what we're talking about is energy, right? And so the way that we talk about co-creation is, I'm not going to be offended when someone's drawn to your energy for what you've done and who you've become and your story. Like, that's just something we can complement each other on the way. But having that Shift Academy is allowing people to take one step at a time.
Yeah, at their own pace too.
Yeah, like rest.
Right.
Like,
To
need 5 days to integrate it in.
Right.
Like, instead of just going, what's the next section in the course? It's like, no, you're the next section in the course. Are you ready for the next bit of information? Because if not, you're going to take a step back.
Yeah. So like you said, water seeks its own level. We will always attract the kind of teachers that are, whatever invitation we're putting out is what kind of teachers we're going to get attracted to, which is, again, why as you refine your inner world, you'll create different experiences. You'll manifest completely different reality. I mean, if you had met me 25 years ago, I could barely carry on a conversation. I had so much anxiety. I was overwhelmed. I was now overwhelmed seeing all this stuff, but also just in general, like, I had all these issues that I had to work through. Now people are like, I can't believe that's true. And I'm like, yes, but that's because I was working on myself. This has been the focus of my life since that moment. And everything I do is wrapped around that. The truth is, everything we do is wrapped around consciousness. Consciousness is the only game in town.
Awareness is key, Eric, to everything.
Yeah, awareness is the only game in town. I mean, we have a lot of faces and forms for it, but really we're exploring this human condition, a divine human being in this incredible adventure, and that's what we're kind of playing with. This is the playground, and consciousness is the forum for us to explore, and relationships is where you're going to experience it.
When you said in the beginning that consciousness is the only thing that you took with you to the other side, I think that makes it pretty clear that this is what we should be working on. It's not that we should be working 80 hours a week and doing things that don't give us pleasure or don't help us with growth. I mean,
let me put it this way. We're always in the growth process. Like, it's happening regardless whether we're involved in it or not. What we're doing here is we're just being intentional about something that's already happening, engaging with awareness. Listen, your only commodity is consciousness. The highest commodity you have is your consciousness. It creates confidence. That creates awareness. That awareness creates a different way of engaging with the world and creating. And like you said, if we're not doing anything else, at least, the very least, we can be aware and involved in the game that we're already playing, whether you know it or not. Right? It's better to ride the horse than be dragged by the horse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have this conversation all the time, Betsy and I, about the mirror. and I hear on a constant, like I look back in my life and go, I didn't trust a person. I didn't trust myself. I couldn't love that person. I couldn't love myself. Like the mirror we talk about is everything you're talking about. It's so important to recognize what you see in someone else is what you're seeing in yourself first, and how to get there is that consciousness. Like,
and then have the tools to be able to work with whatever that reflection is so that you can refine yourself. And I mean, there's indirect reflection and direct reflections, but that again becomes sophistication and subtlety and nuances as you're engaging with your reality. I mean, we are conscious creators. That's the key. You're either a conscious creator or you're an unconscious creator. You're creating, but every act you do, every moment, every breath, every thought, every emotion is creating. So wouldn't it behoove us to kind of pay attention to exactly what we're doing? Because that is putting out there, and that's kind of creating the environment that we're going to live in. So we do have power. We have far more power than we're aware of to be able to create the kind of world we want, the relationships we want, and engage with it with awareness.
Absolutely. And you did mention tools. So give us some tools. What would you recommend for us, Markus?
Powerful tools, and it was when I was in the forest for a year in that vision quest, and I was alone for most of it, which is kind of interesting. Let's be clear. You definitely challenge and access all of your madness and all of your divinity. Because if you stay alone long enough, there's no one to project on. So you're going to end up dealing with yourself, right? But so... yeah, everyone wants to make it very romantic. I'm like, oh, you're right there meditating. I was, but I was also going crazy. So, which was necessary to be able to explore all the different things, the ego, the divine voices, all the different voices. So one of the most powerful tools, I will talk about this till I'm out of this physical experience and probably beyond, is journaling. Because that is literally what was, if you can start the process of investigation, it teaches you observation. And if you can give yourself permission to watch all the different voices that come through your consciousness, you will learn infinite amounts of interesting knowledge about how you function. Journaling is one of those powerful tools. I mean, it sounds so simple. Everyone's like, journal. But not all journaling is created equal, let's be clear. I mean, I can log that me and Betsy and I went out for coffee. We had scones. It was wonderful. But the truth is, it's the quality of the questions you ask in the journaling will give you the forum for you to go deeper. So that's part of why the tools are, if you can learn more sophistication internally, you're going to ask better questions. Those better questions in your investigation process will give you more sophisticated answers, right? And it will bring you good mentors and teachers, and you'll be able to ask questions of those teachers in a more profound way. Journaling is so powerful. It's a great starting point for anyone.
And I thought it when I started coaching with you, and I'm like, yeah. Okay, journaling, yeah. I now tell everyone to journal, and it's about being intentional with it. And yes, everyone. I'm like, have you done your journaling? Okay, so we have journaling. Give me 2 more tools that you highly recommend.
Meditation. And again, not all meditation is created equal, but the process of connecting to self, because when you break down consciousness, there's this little self, the ego structure, the personality structure, your matrix of your ego, which people misunderstand, by the way, pretty much. But either way, this structure's there. And so you're working with that and understanding and refining your relationship to that. And then you want to deepen in the consciousness, the deepest aspect of who you are. And journaling creates the opportunity for explore the world of your matrix and your personality structure. Meditation allows you to deeply connect to self. I've been meditating for 30 years, and I studied for 11 years going back and forth to India, specific techniques. But the truth is, any meditation, any intention to go deeper inside is going to start accessing that inherent part of us, right? That is there, that's running everything. And it's just a matter of bringing it out and allowing that to be part of your daily experience. Because when you've developed that kind of relationship with the self, with the big S, it changes the way you engage with the world. It also changes your relationships, inner relationships and outer relationships. Listen, it's an inside job. It always has been an inside job, and it always will be an inside job.
So I'm totally picking up what you're putting down, but so many people, when I go to that line of thinking, or like, I can't get still for 2 seconds. Like, would you say a guided meditation is the best way to start, just so you can tune into another voice to hear your own?
Guided meditation is great. I mean, I do a lot of them, but really there are 3 kinds of meditation. All meditations on the planet fit into 3 categories. The Kriya or yogic meditations, which means you're doing something, and this is good for the mind, for the Western mind, because it gives you something to focus the mind on when you go inside. You're being intentional. So yogic meditations would be something you're doing, some kind of technique, some kind of thing that you're doing to get you there. Then there's guided meditations or visualizations. That activates the limbic system. And when you change your inner reality and the way you view reality, it shifts the outer reality. So guided meditations are extremely powerful. And then the last one are beingness meditations, which is about sitting in the depths of your own absolute self. Now, most people can't get there right away. So sometimes it's good to be able to use guided meditations and other tools and yogic techniques and meditations that have something for the mind to do. But the key thing is, you got to give the mind a job. The mind's the personal assistant. It's not meant to be the CEO of consciousness, even though our world has made it the CEO of consciousness, right? So if you can give the mind a job, if you can give it something to do, if you can have a meditative technique or a breath work or chakra work, and again, not all meditations created equal, but you're going to find which you're going to find. So every meditation on the planet fits into those 3 categories. Now, everyone has a preference. Everyone knows they like, some people like the beingness, some people like the yogic. The deal is, if you can master or have access to all 3, then you can use that as part of the toolbox you have in your self-development. So for me, meditation is key. It's powerful. And because you know how I'm adamant about meditation, and we offer all different kinds when I come into town. But it's powerful. And listen, this world is filled with distractions. We're constantly getting bombarded all the time with stuff everywhere, right? Social media and nonsense and news and all this stuff. So it's good for us to take a moment and be with ourselves. We're not human doings. We're human beings. And so to be with self means to be at a very deep level with who you are as an inherent consciousness. And once you get access to that, trust me, it's crazy addictive. Like, once you taste it, you want more and you can't get enough. And that's how it works for me. Once I tasted that, I was like, how can I go deeper into this?
And that was one of the meditations that when you first started coming and teaching was Kriya meditation. And oh God, did it make me squirm. Oh, it was so disgusting, because I come from a shamanic, which is all about journeying, okay? Right. So we're traveling to different worlds and everything like that. But let me tell you, now I love Kriya. I do it every single day. So it's finding what you love, but then dabbling in the other, and it is addicting. We have a ton of bliss bunnies that follow you around whenever you come into town, and we do meditation every Monday at Illuminate. And when you come into town and you're hosting it, we had people blissed out yesterday. It was great.
That was fun.
Oh, it was fun.
But listen, bliss is our inherent nature. That's at the core of our consciousness. So, I mean, people all talk about being afraid of the shadow. Well, I don't want to do the inner work and the shadow work. People are actually more afraid of expansion than they are of contraction. Yeah. We're comfortable with our little worlds and our pea shooter consciousness, right? Like, we're comfortable with that. What we're not comfortable with is when someone says there's so much more other and beyond your present experience, and you get a taste of that, then all of a sudden your whole ego structure is like, whoa, wait a second. What are we doing here? So giving people the opportunity to understand how to live as an active bliss environment, which is present with all of us, but to have it activated in your life changes the game. And it makes it a lot easier to navigate this really crazy human circus, you know?
Absolutely. So what would be your third tool that you would recommend?
Third tool. That's a good one. I would say purification as a tool, and I'm using it as a larger piece, but there's a level of purification that we all need to do: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological. Purification is just about understanding that we've been programmed and we've been conditioned with things that are not necessarily healthy. So first, when you start looking, you discover, wait a second, because most people don't look, so they don't know. They just assume whatever I receive from my childhood and my conditioning is who I am. But that's not true. That's just what you've been taught. So purification is once you see it, that you have to go in and you have to refine it, right? And you can do that through all different things. So purification is a big deal for me, and we call that sadhana, spiritual sadhana, which is like you can do these purification techniques, which could be physical, because I know you work with food and you work with working with people in their bodies. That's a level of purification. And then there's the emotional purification. So it requires understanding, cognitive understanding. It requires direct experience, and you will not integrate at the deepest level of your consciousness unless you have an experience and some kind of understanding. You put those two together, that is the most efficient way to integrate any of your spiritual experiences. So that purification process helps us get rid of, let go of the stuff we don't need, and put stuff in our bodies and gives us tools in a way that's going to help us move into deeper states of consciousness. So purification, journaling, right? Inner work, meditation, those things, that game, you put it all together, it's kind of like the perfect combination to be able to really maximize anything that happens to you and to use the universe and the world around you as your teacher, right? I'm also a big advocate for mentorship. I mean, it's not a thing. It hasn't been a thing in our society, but mentorship is one of the key things. I have had a mentor since the moment that happened to me. Since 17 years old, I've always had a mentor. And it would be fairly hypocritical of me to say you should mentor with me and work and then not have a mentor. And I know a lot of teachers who do that. They're out there teaching and they don't have a teacher. Who the hell's keeping them accountable? Accountable to their own things that they can't see. Right? A teacher, a really good mentor and teacher points you inward, gives you the tools, and calls you out on things that you can't see for yourself. Sorry about that, by the way. I'm sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry.
Right?
Don't be sorry. What are you talking about? You're not sorry.
And those parts of my ego they're a little over dramatic. So when I would be called out, it would be like, and then I would sit with it. I'm like,
But if it's done with love and
yes,
and the teacher's ideally the teacher's position in your life is to empower you, and you understand, you align to this. You've already done your test. Like, you've checked me out, you've done your test, you've vetted me, as you said, which you did, which you should, by the way. You should vet your teachers, right? And one of my vettings is if they don't have a teacher, I'm leery, because who's keeping them accountable? Because I've been with gurus and enlightened beings all over the planet, and when they don't have teachers anymore, you see the stuff that they do, right? Because they haven't necessarily, and by the way, just because you're enlightened doesn't mean you've done the inner work.
Correct.
So that's why I feel a teacher keeps you accountable. And I mean, I have a teacher, I will always have a teacher, because I have to be conscious enough to be aware there are things about myself that I will not see that somebody else will have to, at the very least, point towards me to give me an opportunity. And your ego can very much mutate and twist anything you want to make it sound however you want it to sound. So teachers on other planes aren't enough, because you can take that information and you can manipulate it. But it's hard to manipulate when someone's saying, are you sure that that's really what you want to do? Or when someone calls you out on one of your behaviors or points something out for you to look at. If you want to move fast on the spiritual journey, if you want to become a more refined human, if you want powerful, expansive, love-filled relationships, find a teacher. And it was like, how do you find a teacher? I'm like, water seeks its own level. So you will find a teacher that aligns to what you feel. And if you feel a resonance and alignment, and you've done your testing and vetting, and you see these things, and you're confident this person has mastery in the area that you want to work on, then that could be a very powerful person to help you as a guide.
Yeah, or you just go into meditation and put your information at Boynton Canyon. And what's interesting, so that's my power place, and that's where I literally put my name and my phone number on Boynton Canyon in my meditation. And he reached out. Marcus just moved to Sedona.
Yes.
So I'm like,
cool.
Coincidental. Everything's a coincidence. So
nothing's a coincidence.
Right. So one other question, and then I want to know what you've got coming up for people to attend.
Oh, this week we have a lot of stuff.
One question.
Oh, sorry.
The third, the purification.
The third. Okay.
So I want to revert to New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
And I want to do that because coming from a place of training, right? What I see most is I'm going to change what I eat. But most people aren't going to go, I'm going to change the way I think. But what you're actually doing subconsciously without the awareness is you're changing the way you think by changing the way you eat. So talk about the purification, and correct me if I'm wrong. There's no wrong place to start.
No.
Whatever speaks to you, but there has to be that integration and growth.
Yeah, listen, everyone has a different entry point. You call like the entry, like what'd you call it, the gateway drug?
Yeah.
That's funny. The gate. So everyone has a different way in, right? For some people, it's accessing through the physical, through eating. Because when you start to change your mindset around food, that's going to ultimately ripple effect through the rest of the consciousness. And that's the thing. Whatever you go to, whatever you start with, it's going to ripple through your consciousness and touch all the different parts of us. We're holistic beings. So if you affect your emotional body, of course, it's going to affect the rest of how you function. If you work on your eating or you work on a shamanic clearing, of course, it's going to affect you, right? So really, for anyone, you have to feel what's alignment for you. But eventually, you're going to meet the other things anyways, right? You're going to meet energetics, emotions, mind, psychology, and body. It's going to happen.
If you keep
going. Wow, whether you like it or not, it's happening. The question is, and as soon as you start putting intention and access into that, you're going to get opportunities, invitations, and all the other things. So it doesn't matter where you start, but start somewhere, and that power of intention. And let's be clear, one of the most powerful things about intention is your sincerity, because a lot of people have half-ass intentions, right? You know, they're like, oh, I kind of want to change this. I would be nice on Sunday, in between all the other things I'm doing. But then there's those people who are like, they're sincere, and the universe responds really profoundly to sincerity. Even if you're off in what you're asking for, even if you don't know what you're asking for, the sincerity is this powerful force that allows the universe to respond equally. So it will respond in a sincere way if you're sincere. So it doesn't matter how you start. It's just do what you feel called to, be sincere, what's in alignment and authentic to you, and then follow that through, and then pay attention, because as soon as you put awareness into that, you're going to get opportunities and invitations from everywhere. This is a giant playground, right? I mean, one of the things about having been on the other side is people talk about the mystical experience of it. And for me, yes, that's true, but I'm highly pragmatic, and I have to be to a certain degree to function, right? But one of the things that's really interesting is that for me, it's about context. Every spiritual experience you have puts you into a different experience, a different opening, and then you have to take that back into the world. And so that's the whole journey. Like when I went to the other side, when I came back, you have a different perspective. So every time you have an opening, an invitation, every time you have it's some kind of epiphany, some inspiration, whether that be mind, body, spirit, emotion, psychology, ego, it doesn't matter. It will offer you the invitation to now look at the whole world differently, right? So that context is empowering. Just like if you've never been outside of Milwaukee, you don't have a relationship to it in comparison to something else. So I had a comparison of non-life, something other, so that when I came back here, how could I see it the same way? And that's exactly what happens when you have a spiritual opening, right? When you have a moment, when something shifts, when something leaves you, when something clears, you have that moment of awareness, and that offers you an invitation to look at everything differently. And then the game happens. How do I make that work practically in the world? How do I integrate that? How do I apply that in my life and all my relationships?
Down the rabbit hole. Love the rabbit hole. Call me Alice.
The thing is, since COVID too, and people have said, "Oh, are you keeping busy?" And I say, "No, I'm keeping very intentional." And I have 3 heads at that point, because they're like, "Well, you're busy then." I'm like, "No, I'm very intentional with everything I'm doing." And it's just so like to say that, to watch a person go and the wheels start turning. It's a
language that most people, I mean, they haven't necessarily considered it that way before, right?
Yeah.
So it's powerful. And again, everything's an invitation. And the more you refine that relationship, the more the dance between you and consciousness, because as you change yourself, you change the way you relate to the universe, and then the universe relates to you differently. and therefore the invitations look different. That's how you change your life. You change your life that way, not by, trying to manipulate people on the outside world or control stuff or make stuff happen to make you feel safe and comfortable. Listen, if you want to grow, there's comfort and there's growth. They are diametrically opposed and mutually exclusive, right? If you stay too comfortable, you will never grow. You have to push to the far edge of your comfort zone in any area that you're exploring, whether it be a sport, a skill, a vocation, a talent, music, whatever it is. You have to push to the far edge of your comfort zone if you want to go somewhere you've never been. But when you go somewhere you've never been, you can take that information back and everything changes.
So this weekend.
Yeah, let's talk about pushing people to their comfort zones. That's what we love doing. Yeah, we love doing.
Well, there's going to be an event here on Friday. It's a shamanic pranayama. So I come from a native background. My father grew up in a native reservation. My uncle is still the chief, and my great grandfather was the shaman. So my lineage is shamanic training from the Algonquin tribe in northern Ontario, North Canada. So, just in case people don't know where that is. So we do this ecstatic breathing, and I create a shamanic container, and people lay on the ground and they do this breathing, and we use this ecstatic breathing to push to the far edge of the comfort zone while I clear and work on people in the process of that. That's one event that's happening. We have a retreat on Saturday where we're going to explore, this is fun. We're going to explore the feminine and the masculine archetypes and teach people how to engage and activate different parts of their feminine, masculine energy. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about masculine and feminine, what it is, how it applies. But it is powerful to understand how to relate to those two energies because you're fundamentally made up of both. Doesn't matter what gender you are. Doesn't matter what your sexual preference is. You're masculine and feminine. So it's a matter of now, if we activate that, again, the inner work changes the way you engage with self, which changes the outer world. So we're going to do a whole day of mapping it out, teaching people about the archetypes and how they give them tools. The more tools you get, the better, right? So that we're doing that. And we also have an acupuncture, right?
Yep, esoteric acupuncture. And that's one of those gateways. That's one of those gateways because Christy Kern is the acupuncture. Phenomenal. We're going to have her on the show. Yeah. She does points, she channels, and she's guided to do what points. And I remember the heart opening one, and it seriously felt like my heart cracked open. And Marcus goes around and does this sound bath. So it's creating this energetic vortex. And then we have these needles all in our body, on our face and stuff. And they don't hurt, by the way, if anyone's afraid of needles and acupuncture. And I remember feeling like my heart cracked open and everyone was just sobbing. And at the end, I look over at my best friend and we're just a train wreck, right? And we just start laughing hysterically. And it was so beautiful. So you guys, great gateway. And it's, what did you call it?
Passive spirituality.
Passive. So you get a lay.
You lay in a zero gravity chair and we do the work. And all you have to do is kind of just luxuriate in the energy that's getting created.
Yeah.
While Christy, she does esoteric acupuncture, and there's very few people in this area who even do that. I mean, I know who she studied with in LA, and he's a master. And so Christy is phenomenal. So her and I work together. We've been doing this event now for, it's probably about 12 years.
Yeah.
So, and again, there's nothing like it because between the energetic work and all the things I'm doing and she's doing, it's a beautiful, like simpatico of energy that's moving. It's kind of an orchestra. It's very beautiful. I enjoy it. We kind of try to keep it as the last event because it's very intense and it's powerful. But again, it's one of those things where people can get an experience of something else, which opens them up. And
so those events are at Illuminate?
They're all at Illuminate once here.
Okay.
Everyday Bliss. Then the other ones are Illuminate. And I think we have a Meditation Monday. But for Meditation Monday, we're doing a drum
circle.
Yeah, so that should be fun. That'll be fun. I think that's the first one you're doing there, so that'll be cool.
Is that any online for people who can't attend in person?
There'll be online stuff when I get back to Sedona after this, but I'm kind of fully engaged. Well, and then there's private sessions, right? I mean, I still have some openings for private sessions, and that's when I work with people individually with a combination of body work and coaching, depending on what they're looking for. So I've been doing that. There's still some of those open as well.
And they are powerful. Like a private session, I mean, the body work, that's some stuff. It's just breathe. No, I'm just kidding. I say that with love, but it's amazing what kind of emotions like pour out of you that you didn't realize were even in there. And it's like, oh, this is all your shame. And I'm like, yeah, no. But they love it. They love it. No, they're right. The elbow drop.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's not that.
No, I've
beautiful.
done, I have about 20 or plus disciplines because as part of the studying, I wanted to learn how to purify, right? This is part of a purification process. So, part of that is some of it's physical, and that physical body work with I'll take, it's basically a toolbox, and depending on the individual, we'll use whatever tools required and mix them up. So when it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it's a mix of this and this and this, depending on what your consciousness needs. But that's the game, like I like having a toolbox, and then we can have freedom to explore what someone wants. And then people bring what they want to work on too, to me. Like some people, they just want to come in and they want to work through an issue. But that can be happening online, because I always do remote coaching and stuff online too. I always say when I come into town, do your remote stuff when I'm online, and then come into town and then get the body work.
Yeah.
Because I'm physically here. I can do some stuff online, but I can't literally reach and touch you online with my physical body. So I'm here that's a good thing to utilize that space and time. But yeah, I mean, and again, that's training. I don't teach anything I haven't either done or at least practiced, because that's not an integrity, and I can't do that in alignment. So for me, if I've done it and if I've learned it and there's a level of mastery on it, then it's something I'm willing to teach. So important. Well, I mean, a lot of teachers don't do that. And otherwise, then you're just pontificating, and that's not necessarily, there's no transmission in that, because an awakened, alive, living example of anything has a different transmission than somebody who just thinks they know what they're talking about, or it's all conceptual, right? We're beings, remember? It's that we want to be a living embodiment of the teachings. And you want also, if you're going to find a teacher, you want a teacher who exemplifies a living example of what you're looking for in terms of mastery. And again, I hate to say this, but I mean, people get these certifications in a weekend, and I'm like, where's the integration? Where's the mastery? Where's the practice? I mean, some of my processes, listen, when I was in the forest working with shamans, you would just sit under a hut for 4 days, and maybe you would get access to the teacher who would come out of the forest for a little while, and then he'd look at you and go, yeah, you're not ready, and he'd go back in. So you had to show up, and you had to demonstrate you wanted it, right? I don't teach that way. I try to give people the understanding. But the way I was taught, I had to travel all over, and I had to go through initiations to even get access to some of the teachings. And I mean, now with online, people get all the information, but they don't have the integration. They don't have a lived experience of it. They just think they know. And they do. They have a mental understanding, but that's not going to be enough. Not if you want to live as a living example of what you're learning.
Absolutely.
I have to laugh when you say that, because when I played basketball in England, it was a fairly new sport, and the referees were book trained. And so it was advantage, disadvantage. It was no advantage to call the foul. You could get pummeled and have a bloody nose, but the foul wouldn't get called. So I can totally relate to that. So amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And you guys, Markus will be hanging out for a little bit after. Thank you so much to our live studio audience for the first time. Love it, love it, love it. So feel free, hang out, go ahead, grab some snacks. And if you have any questions for any of us, we would love to sit down and talk with any of you. Thank you so much, Markus.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for privilege and a blessing, and I look forward to continued adventures.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And thank you.
For being here again. And thank you. Yes. Thank you for having me again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, and we appreciate. Give a hand for Betsy, Charlene, and Markus.
And for the audience.
Yes. And our beautiful audience. Thank you. Thank you.